Now, Joe Biden's Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, faced questions from the Senate today during the second day of her confirmation hearings. But unlike Democrats, Republicans, they focused on Judge Jackson's record, her judicial philosophy, and exposed the Democratic double standards when it comes to Republican nominees. That dates back decades. Here's Senators Graham and Cruz from earlier today. Take a look.
Do you know Janice Rogers Brown?
Yes, I do know her.
Did you know that Joe Biden actively filibustered Janice Rogers Brown?
I did not know that.
There are two standards going on here. If you're an African-American conservative woman, you're fair game to have your life turned upside down, to be filibustered no matter how qualified you are. And if you express your faith as a conservative, all of a sudden you're a effing nut. Look at the friggin' Afghan government. It's made up of former detainees at Gitmo. This whole thing by the left about this war ain't working.
Let me also note that Larry Thompson, who served as Deputy Attorney General under...
So, Judge Jackson, all of us will agree that no one should be discriminated against because of race. When you just testified a minute ago that you didn't know if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, I will confess I find that statement a little hard to reconcile with the public record.
I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that.
And I'll confess, Judge Jackson, as I listened to your testimony, I believe you are someone who is compassionate. I believe you care for children, obviously your children and other children. But I also see a record of activism and advocacy as it concerns sexual predators that stems back decades and that is concerning. You say requirements that sex offenders register may or may not be unconstitutional, depending upon whether, quote, in which sex offenders have no privacy right in registration information or blood samples. So you suggest that may or may not be constitutional, although you raise doubts about it. Do you still agree with the sentiments you expressed in your law school note?
Respectfully, Senator, those are not the sentiments that I expressed in my law school note.
Now, the hearings will continue tomorrow and are scheduled to conclude on Thursday. Here now with more is Texas Senator Ted Cruz is with us. Senator, I want to start with this. She wrote once that every judge has a personal hidden agenda. And when I heard that, I'm thinking, what is her hidden agenda? We ever get an answer on that?
Well, no, and when it came to critical race theory, she didn't want to answer the question. She claimed she didn't really know what it was or what it contained. Of course, she had previously given a speech at a law school where she said that sentencing, what judges do, involves critical race theory. And I got to say, there was a lot of discussion about her record when it concerns sexual offenders and in particular sexual predators targeted at kids. As you just played, I asked her about what she wrote in law school that suggested that the laws that many states have passed providing for civil commitment for violent sexual predators, that those laws are unconstitutional. And you know, we went through every single case that she's presided over as a district judge where the defendant was convicted of possession of child pornography. Every case that she had discretion in, she consistently sentenced the defendant to substantially below the sentencing guidelines and substantially below what the prosecutor asked for over and over and over again. She averaged sentencing them 48% less than the prosecutor asked for, and that was in 100% of the cases where she had discretion, where there wasn't a plea agreement or a mandatory minimum sentence. It really is a disturbing pattern, and when she was asked, for example, one case involved an 18-year-old man who had multiple videos, explicit videos of young children, 12-year-olds, 11, 10, as young as 8 years old, engaged in explicit sexual activity, in one instance being the victim of a violent rape. And she sentenced the 18-year-old man who had these videos on his computer to just 3 months in jail. The federal sentencing guidelines said 10 years. She gave him 3 months, and I got to say, when she was asked about it, she couldn't give a good explanation about why repeatedly she gave light sentences, lenient sentences to sex offenders when the law didn't support that.
I watched the exchange. I couldn't believe it myself, Senator. I want to go back to critical race theory. More specifically, I believe the speech you were referring to was at Michigan's law school, and she had praised the 1619 Project, which argues fundamentally that the U.S. is a racist country. And in that speech, correct me if I'm wrong, did she not make clear that judges that she believes should consider CRT in sentencing?
That's explicitly what she said, is that sentencing, she was talking about how interesting sentencing is, and she says it involves lots of things, including critical race theory. And when I asked her about it, she initially contended she had no idea what it was and that it had nothing to do with her job. And then I confronted her with her own quote saying that sentencing involves critical race theory, and she didn't have an answer to that. Look, it's a little bit of the game, unfortunately, that we've seen from Biden judicial nominees, where they claim to have no philosophy, they claim not to know anything about whatever they believe, and then they get on the bench and they vote hard left. And I think there's real reasons to have concerns that if Judge Jackson becomes Justice Jackson, that we will see a vote on the far left, very possibly the furthest left of any of the 9 justices, particularly on criminal justice issues. It's an odd thing, but for 30 years, she has been advocating lighter sentences, more lenient treatment for sexual offenders, both sexual offenders who target kids and just in general, sex offenders. And I got to say that doesn't make any sense to me, and I think to most Americans.
What about the issue of court packing? She refuses to answer that question. I'm a little surprised why she refuses to answer that question. Simple question. She says it's a policy issue. Do you see a constitutional question involved?
Well, there's not a constitutional barrier to packing the court. Congress has the authority to alter the number of justices, and over the years Congress has. But for over 100 years, it's been set at 9. The person who she's been nominated to replace, Steve Breyer, has said we should stay at 9. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed away just over a year ago, she said it should stay at 9. And so Judge Jackson just doesn't want to answer it. And I think part of the reason she doesn't want to answer it is the people who are actively supporting her nomination, the people who lobbied the Biden White House for her nomination, the people who have devoted and pledged over $1 million to a campaign in support of her nomination. They're the radical extreme left. They've described the Constitution as, quote, trash, and they're the ones pushing the campaign to pack the Supreme Court. And so Judge Jackson did not want to address a view one way or the other on the question.
I noticed there is a great difference between, say, the way Democrats treat Republican nominees to the court. I'll name a few names: Robert Bork, Clarence Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh more recently. Do you see any of your Republican colleagues, like Lisa Murkowski, I assume, Mitt Romney, and the usuals, supporting her nomination?
Look, I think it's certainly possible. I think the names you suggest would not shock me to see them vote in favor of this confirmation. I hope that they don't do that, but on any close contested political issue, you can see them casting a vote with the Democrats. What I hope every Republican does, and for that matter, what Democrats ought to do, is look to her record and ask, is this a justice that would defend the Constitution? As you know, the book I wrote 2 years ago, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History, that outlines how free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment, they all hang in the balance, and we ought to ask, would this justice protect our constitutional rights?
Well, do they believe in co-equal branches of government, or do they believe they can legislate from the bench? Do they believe in the Constitution or not? Pretty simple questions, important principles, and all we get are prepared talking points in many hearings. That's what I felt like we were getting today. Senator, thank you. Good to see you.